Let's get to today's questions. Come on, let's go to the first one. Honest opinion. It goes like this. Good evening, Andrea Gonsalves. Please let me know. Has the clean record law been abolished? Are all these prospective candidates, suspects, those who have been formally charged, and those under investigation going to keep deceiving the people and harming the country? Thank you for the question. So we have, you said it right. You mentioned those who have been formally charged, those under investigation and suspects. The clean record law requires more than that for someone to be disqualified from running as a candidate. Can someone who has been formally charged still run as a candidate? Yes, Andrea Gonsalves, they can. Can a suspect run as a candidate? Can someone under indictment run as a candidate? Can someone facing legal proceedings run as a candidate? No. Who cannot run as a candidate according to the clean record law? Someone who has been convicted of a crime by a multi-judge panel. So, in other words, if the person is convicted by a single judge, they can still run as a candidate. They just can't run as a candidate if they're convicted by a multi-judge panel. Thank you. That's what the clean record law says. That's why we often see criminals running as candidates. Sometimes they've even already been convicted at the trial court level. But since there still isn't a conviction by an appellate court by a multi-judge panel, cheers, strong Brazil. And as for the women, they can be candidates. Got it? So someone under investigation can run and someone formally charged can too. A suspect, someone under investigation being prosecuted or even convicted in the first instance can still be a candidate. So that's why it's really important when I ask you to like and comment on the live. It's not a joke. It's so we can reach more people. Because many times social media is often what reveals the truth about a person, whether they're a criminal, a hustler, a bum, or not. And we have to speak up, we have to show it. Because if we don't, soon there will be people voting for criminals without even knowing they're criminals. See? So that's why it's so important. Hit the like button and share so people can find out. At least so they don't vote for those useless people, right? Because for the love of God, Maria Helena, could it turn into a new Lava Jato with Andre Mendonça protecting the Bolsonaro supporters? I'm afraid of that. Look, it can. Unfortunately, we have to say that this could become a new Lava Jato where they will do everything they can to try to prevent Lula from being re-elected. But Andre Mendonça's decisions are made by the second panel. They have to be confirmed by the second panel, which doesn't help much because Andre Mendonça is there, Luis Fux is there, and Nunes Marquez is there. All Bolsonaro supporters, we know that. So, like, what about Gilmar Mendes? Diaz Toffoli declared himself unable to participate. It could change. We have to keep an eye on that, okay? We have to keep an eye on that. The thing is, will what's done to Chico also be done to Francisco? Or will Andre Mendonça go after the left-wing crowd either by fabricating situations or by being tougher on the left? Look, I don't believe that. I know that Andre Mendonça was chosen by Bolsonaro and all, but I don't believe that. I believe that justice will be done, or else nothing will come of it. With so many people involved, right? Like what happened today with Wagner, right? That whole situation, Ciro Nogueira is already involved. Claudio Castro is already involved. Even Flavio Bolsonaro himself has to answer and explain things that he hasn't explained yet, right? Actually, there's a question here since we're on this topic that I want to bring up from Maria de Lourdes. She says, it's the question that won't go away. If the Banco Mastra case involves Bolsonaro and other Bolsonarist politicians like Tarcísio and Nicolas, why isn't the minister who is terribly evangelical and was appointed by Bolsonaro to the Supreme Court disqualified from hearing this case? Good question, because that doesn't create grounds for disqualification, okay? The fact that a minister was appointed by the President of the Republic doesn't make that minister disqualified or subject to recusal, you know? The fact that Lula, for example, appointed Cristiano Zanin doesn't make Cristiano Zanin disqualified or subject to recusal to judge any situation related to Lula, unless there are cases in which Cristiano Zanin was the lawyer at the time he was practicing law. So the fact that Bolsonaro appointed Nunes Marquez and appointed Andre Mendonça doesn't make either of them disqualified. If it is really established and proven that the Bolsonaro supporters, especially that crowd who by all indications are Bolsonaro appointees, are involved, that doesn't stop Andre Mendonça from judging the situation or disqualify him, okay? Still, we need to watch closely. Otherwise, it might become another lava jato. Although I reiterate that I don't believe that. I believe that justice will be done, but we're watching, okay? Let's go to the next question here, everyone here. Elenice Costa. Can this situation with Senator Wagner and Master affect and harm Lula? Elenice, it can. Let's not lie. Jax Wagner, who was targeted by the federal police operation today, is the leader of Lula's government in the Senate. And he's from the Workers' Party. So this could cause some political damage to Lula's government. That's clear. But if everything that the federal police presented, which I even showed you in the 12:30 p.m. live today, if all of that is true, if he received the bribe, if he received benefits from Daniel Vorcaro, if he got an apartment worth more than 2 million reais as a bribe to help Daniel Vorcaro's mafia, it doesn't matter. Whether they're right-wing or left-wing, dear folks, they have to be held accountable, they have to go to jail. Obviously, we are still in the investigation phase. We can't say they're criminals. They're under investigation as suspects. And I read the federal police report, as I showed you all in the 12:30 live, and there's a lot in there. And the suspicions are strong against Senator Jax Wagner of the Workers' Party. What needs to be done? Justice. And Lula needs to go public and say, look, let justice be done. Especially because Lula has already said, no matter who it hurts, the federal police will do their job. Lula himself decided that he won't cover up for anyone, and that's how it should be. Now, obviously we have to wait. It's still in the investigation phase. There's still whether or not there will be an indictment, whether or not there will be charges, whether or not there will be a court case, whether or not there will be a conviction. And that's why I say we have to stay very alert. It's an election year. And there's the legal part, there's the investigation part, obviously, but there's also the political part that we have to keep an eye on. Before long, you already know, right? Yeah, it's one rule for some people and another for others because of politics, because of shamelessness. So we have to stay alert. But I keep asking, is it Bolsa or Master and you? I keep asking, is it Lula or Tetra? And let's move forward. Let's go to the next one here, my dears. Inez Alves. And if he runs for office and then gives up, does he go back to being a senator? She's talking here about Flavio Bolsonaro. As I explained to you in yesterday's Q&A, if Flavio Bolsonaro withdraws his candidacy before registering, it's all fine, no problem. If he withdraws his candidacy after he has registered, can he still withdraw? Yes, he can. He can renounce his candidacy. But there's a catch. If he renounces less than 20 days before the election, which is on the first Sunday of October, his party can't nominate a replacement for him. That's the situation I explained to you. Now she's asking, and if he withdraws his candidacy, can he go back to being a senator? Because he currently holds the position of senator, he can and will be a senator until December 31st of this year. Starting January 1st, 2027, Flavio Bolsonaro will no longer be a senator. Do you understand? So if he withdraws after registering his candidacy, because if he withdraws before registering his candidacy, he can even run for the Senate. Did you understand? He can even run for the Senate, but if he withdraws after registering his candidacy, he goes back to being a senator to complete his 8-year term, which ends on December 31, 2026. In other words, starting January 1, 2027, he won't be anything anymore. Do you think he'll give up Andrea Gonçalves? I don't know. Things look really bad for him, right? And I believe he might give up if he decides to run for the Senate again or for federal deputy, because otherwise soon he won't be anything anymore. Now for him to give up just for the sake of it, unless things are really, really bad and he's actually heading to jail, otherwise he won't give up. These people have no shame. Yeah, people with no shame are worth nothing. See? Nothing, 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 nothing. The other question here. Maria de Lourdes. The question, and if the Banco Master case involves too much stock market, that's what I explained. The Bolsonaro crowd, this and that and so on. Why does Minister Andre Mendonça continue to be the justice assigned to the case? Isn't he disqualified or considered biased? As I told you a little while ago, this does not make the justice of the Federal Supreme Court biased or disqualified because of situations in which the president appointed him. Do you understand? It doesn't make him. The fact that Bolsonaro appointed Andre Mendonça as a justice of the Federal Supreme Court does not make Andre Mendonça biased or disqualified to judge the master case. Even if Bolsonaro, Flavio Bolsonaro, Eduardo Bolsonaro, Bolsonaro's ministers, and the whole group, all the Bolsonaro supporters are involved. Do you understand, my dear? That's the situation. Hit the like button, share the live stream, and leave your comment because it's very important. Every day at 8 p.m. from Monday to Friday, I'm here to answer your questions and take advantage of it. Ask your question, all right? Kisses until next time. Take care. Bye-bye.